All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, CL King, coming to you live from the High Definition Studios here in Impactville. Good evening, and we are so excited about closing out our week with a fantastic guest and friend. She's more like family. We shouldn't call her a guest because even though I got on my finest apparel, she would be okay with us in pajamas because we're cool like that. We're welcoming back to the virtual studios here at Impacting Life 24/7, podcasting expert Tracey Cook. And she hails all the way from Australia, Perth. So I told you guys in the flyer that we're bringing people all the way from across the globe. She's actually in tomorrow morning, so you're going to want to pay attention tonight. Tracey Cook, host and producer of Victim to Victory podcast series, which features celebrity guests and global entrepreneurs' real stories. She has produced over 300 podcast episodes in just a matter of a couple years. The reason why she's done that is because she's a doggone expert. Her journey is one of passion to help women find their voice and authenticity through the power of podcasting. So ladies, if you're listening out there and you want to put your voice to use, man, you're going to have to pay attention to her. She is intentionally driven to help women create movements of visionaries, building their true, authentic, personal brand, influence, and authority while making a profit in their business. Are you listening to me? She said that word, profit. Yes, your podcast can be a profit. She believes that our story is our brand and our brand is our story. And through sharing our messages of impact via podcasting, we can encourage and inspire other women to rise up and share their voices too. That's what Tracey Cook says. And listen, not everybody gets the opportunity to come back on this show. But when I seek you out, I begged, pretty much twisted her arm and said, Tracey Cook, you've got to come back to the virtual studios and inspire our audience with that killer rock star accent, your dynamic personality, and your world-class charm. And so she agreed. We set this up several months ago, so she's back with us, ladies and gentlemen. So I want all the ladies in the house to get a pen and pad. I want you to listen close, strap your ears on, because we're going for a real wild ride all the way from Australia, Perth. My friend and sister, Miss Tracey Cook. Put your hands together!
Thank you very much. Wow, what an introduction. And because I'm an Aussie, I've got to say g'day. G'day, my brother. It is great to be back and in Impactville. And it is great to reconnect with you because you are just hitting some milestones and paving the way for other entrepreneurs. How fantastic. Thank you.
I know. We all of us entrepreneurs, we always go and stalk each other out. I'm like, okay, what's Tracey doing today? And I'm like, oh man, and you know what? The good thing about that though is we don't realize how our actions, Tracey, motivate other people. Like, sometimes you know how it is. Sometimes you just get in a blah spot and you're just like, oh my goodness, I don't feel like going. I don't want to do a podcast. I don't feel like finishing this book, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you go look over there in Australia, Perth, and you see Tracey starting a new course. She's launching a new business. She's changing this. She's going this direction. And I'm like, you know what? I need to suit up, quit feeling sorry for myself because Tracey Cook is paving the way for me. And so I'm going to follow her lead. So thank you so much for being back. I can't remember the last time you were here. Do you remember when you were here last?
I think it was about 7 to 8 months ago that we last spoke, actually. And a lot has happened since then.
Yeah, see, that's not even fair, Tracey, that you have stayed away for 7 to 8 months. Why are you going to be like that, Tracey?
Look, the world catches up with us. And when we've got a to-do list, we just got to get to task, don't we? We just got to make it happen. And time flies and you lose space when you're doing something that you're passionate about.
Right. Absolutely. And so, Greg, thank you for being with us. Greg, as you guys know, is our VP. He's always 500 miles away, but he's already got your link there in the chat, TraceyCook.com. And so we're going to get right to it because I told her the show is 30 minutes, but because she's coming all the way from the future, we're going to give her a little extra time tonight, y'all. So another way that people can reach you, I know we have Tracey Cook, but what are other ways that people can contact you?
I am omnipresent, CL King. I am on LinkedIn. I am on Facebook. Go to Tracey Cook on Facebook. If you go to my website, it's got all of my social links. You can find me absolutely everywhere. And even though I'm a nana, you can even find me on TikTok.
Oh yes, keep rocking that TikTok, man. I see her TikToks and I'm just like, go ahead, Tracey. I love it. And you know, one thing about that particular platform and other platforms is that you add some levity to what you do. You know what I mean? A lot of times people think, man, entrepreneur business, everything's serious and starchy, etc. But you add, you might pull up Tracey Lee Cook and see her busting a move because Tracey liked to dance, don't you, Tracey?
We like to bust a little bit of a move. Look, that's our brand, right? That's our brand. Everyone's seeing these different elements of us and turning up authentic and real and funny and serious and professional when you have to be.
Right.
It's all part of us, right?
It really is part of us, man. And so again, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to connect with my guest now, if you're a lady looking to level up your business and your life via podcasting, we have the perfect guest with us tonight. And her name, Greg says he likes to dance. Okay, Greg. Yeah, Greg, old school dancer though. You know, Greg's getting ready to turn 60. So he do that old 5 heartbeats dancing. So I don't know what kind of dancing Greg doing. But have you ever met Greg?
I think I have. We've chatted sometimes via your podcast, I think. Yeah. And and very well known for behind the scenes there.
Oh yeah, he is. He does. This is not his thing. He always admits it. And I have a friend who's a business partner who does everything in his power to promote me. And I mean, he's my very best friend on the planet, and I'm thankful to have him by my side. So anyway, Tracey, tell us a little bit about yourself and give us a kind of a snapshot of who Tracey Lee Cook is. And then I'm going to ask for a second segment of what inspired you to get into this space. So tell us about yourself.
Well, I am a wife, a mum, and nana. I'm in Perth, Western Australia. I've got 9 beautiful grandchildren, and I'm well over the mid-50s now. But that's just the cover brand, right? That's what we lead with, right? Tracey Lee Cook, myself, is somebody who has hit every single branch on the tree coming down. If you've experienced it, I've experienced it. Homelessness, addiction, childhood sexual abuse, domestic violence, single mother, living on welfare, you name it. It has happened to me. I've hit every bloody branch on the tree coming down. And you know what? You can either stay in that victimhood, or you can actually go, you know what? I was given that story to wear it like a superhero cape and not an anchor. And I need to do something with my story, because your story is a gift and it is given to you with a purpose to go and help other people. And that is the essence of who I am. My purpose, my mission that is being given and I'm blessed to receive, is to help other people through the things that I struggled with, of unworthiness, of not having a voice, of being told to sit down and shut up, or you'll never amount to anything. That's why I love helping other women find their voice, find that inner hero, and strap on that superhero cape and wear it with pride, because that's your story, and your brand is your story, and your story is your brand. And that's what makes me me. I am an imperfect speaker. I'm a former radio announcer. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I love helping women find their voices, share their messages of impact, like Impactville, and really brand themselves, their imperfect, beautiful, vulnerable selves, and to step into that power, to be able to project to the world, this is who I am, this is how I'm showing up, and to make money from it, because that is okay to do, to make money from your story, to make money from your what you've been through. It's given to you as a gift, no matter how traumatized, no matter how victimized. And this is something that a lot of people go, oh, but something really bad happened to me. Yes, it does. And it's horrible. And it's a horrible place to be in. But we heal, because the person we are when we're in that survival mode is not the person we need to be in that thrive mode.
Yeah.
So we have to go through what we go through to be able to thrive and to help others along the way, to unlock somebody else's prison or potential through the power of podcasts, through the power of our personal brand, and by finding our voices.
That's powerful. Again, Tracey Cook, TraceyLeeCook.com. She has the same middle name as your friend, CL King. Everybody wants to know what the L stands for. Tracey, it is Lee. Did you know? This is why we get along so well. Hailing all the way from Australia, Perth, I consider her to be a podcast expert. See, because what happened is we connected somewhere around 2020, maybe around in there during the pandemic that you were really locked down. And I was on her podcast and we had such a phenomenal time. I remember even what I was wearing, because I was wearing a four-door. I'll never forget that. And I said, man, a lady with this type of accent and this type of energy, we need to bring her to the U.S. and have her on our platform. And so one of the things that resonates with me, with you and I, is we have very similar stories, right?
We do.
Have similar stories of abuse and neglect and homelessness, etc. And I like what you said at the end, because Tracey, let me just tell you, I done traveled thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of miles for chicken dinners to tell my story. And then one day I realized, you know what? Chicken dinners is not keeping the lights on around here. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized that I could receive benefit from what I'm doing as a profession. We don't mind that a doctor went to college for 12 years. We expect to pay them. They perfected their craft. We expect the masonry. We don't expect him to lay the bricks out there for free, right? And so here we are. We've perfected our craft by basing it around our story. And then people get upset when they say, oh, you mean you want us to pay for that? Absolutely. And so Tracey Lee Cook is someone who is on a mission to help ladies be able to take their story and turn it into a podcast. What is your time frame? 90 days, Tracey?
90 days, indeed.
90 days. And so tell us how you got into this podcasting space. I mean, like, what prompted you to do it? Obviously, you got a tremendous and powerful story, an author, etc., entrepreneur, but what prompted you into the podcasting space?
Oh, this story is going to blow you away. It's quite unusual. It's quite unique, because I was in 2019 in the US, in Fort Myers, Florida. I was chosen amongst other entrepreneurs to be in a reality show called Play to Win.
Okay.
And it was through the Higdon group, Ray and Jessica Higdon. And there was 2 people from Australia. There was people all over the globe. And we came together, and the director was Hank Norman, who's the success guru behind Grant Cardone, Mel Robbins. It's a very unique story.
Uh-huh.
And I was in Florida. I was in a reality show, and we had to tell our story, right? Mm-hmm. And at that time, I'd never told my story. And there was cameras up in your face and people poking you behind the scenes going, tell your story. And as people came out of the room, the recording room, from telling their story, I thought, you ain't getting me crying on camera with the snot bubbles and the ugly cry. I am not telling my story. So I told a snippet of my story, a little minute core story that had a little bit of meaning that people could connect with me, but there was a long process in telling my story. So I didn't win the reality show. I wasn't even a finalist. But by seeing all these other people from all over the world that were just like me, they were broken, they were disruptors, they were thought leaders, they were critical thinkers, they were risk takers. And I thought at some point I'm going to have to tell my story. By telling their stories, they were changing people's lives. And by telling their stories, I could see more of them. I could look into their eyes and see their soul. I seen them in a different way. And it's a 36-hour and a couple of plane rides back to little old Perth, Western Australia, by myself on an aeroplane. So the cogs were ticking. My mind was ticking over. And I thought, how am I going to tell my story? So much has happened to me. Who's going to listen? Who's going to care? And it's going to make me sound like a whinger or looking for sympathy or like I'm wearing my heart on a sleeve. Like, what am I going to do with this information? And I came back, and at this very same week, the local radio station offered me a position as a radio announcer. Everything just falls into place.
Yeah.
The universe provides, right?
Right.
It places these things and these obstacles and these rewards in your way. And if you're not awake and aware, you've got to recognize them and go for it. I said no. I joined the radio station. I had my own show. We're talking about health and mental health and wellness and everything around that. I was dodging the bullet of talking about my story. One day, I just turned on my Facebook Live. I don't know why. Fresh out of the shower, no makeup, wet hair, my tracksuit on. I press play and I just told my story for about 20 minutes with the ugly cry, with the snot bubbles, with the truth. And you know what? It felt so free, and I didn't care who judged me, who criticized me, who empathized with me. And as a result of that, my messenger blew up, hundreds, and I mean hundreds of messages within a few hours. And I was overwhelmed. I was confused. I didn't know what to do with this information. Total strangers that had heard my Facebook Live about my story reaching out to me saying, me too. My sister's been through that. Thank you. You've given me bravery to share my story, etc. And I cried and couldn't sleep and was confused and felt really uncomfortable for weeks. I went and seen a professional. I said, what should I do with this information? I don't know. This is being handed to me as a gift and I want to handle it correctly. I want to respect these people. I want to respect their stories, and I want to respect them for being honest, for coming forward to me. And it took me weeks even more to reply to every single message. And the more I'd reply to, the more I would get. This led into the thousands of messages. And this went on for quite a while. So I started doing regular lives, sharing more about my story, and talking about how I overcame it, right? Not just, whoa, look at me. This happened to me. This is really bad. I know you've experienced too. But the thing for me was how I overcome it to help other people, right? So if people are coming to you with their story, and I call it the Me Too movement, raising their hand and saying, me too, great. I'm so sorry you went through that. How can I help you to unlock your prison or potential from what you've experienced? How can I help you with my words of motivation, inspiration, or point you to resources that can help you overcome and step into your power and find your voice? And find your voice and your greatness within you, so you can rise up and help other people along the way as well. How can we create this ripple effect? And that was birthed the Victim to Victory podcast series. Wow. To give people a platform to elevate their voices, to showcase them, to tell their real stories. And I had heaps of people, men and women, sharing their stories, just like you, CL. You came onto my Victim to Victory podcast, right, and it helped so many people. I didn't know that this was going to create a community. I didn't know that this was going to create a freaking movement. Yes. A movement. There were people helping people. They were mentoring people. They were sending them food packages. They were connecting with them in their local areas globally. People were meeting for coffee and helping each other. I created a friggin' movement. Was that my intention? No. That's the power of podcast. Yep. Out of that, CL, I got 18 collaborative authors to come together and achieve an Amazon #1 best-selling Victim to Victory book together. They all wrote their own chapter. And I have to be unique, right? I have to be a little bit different. Each chapter has a QR code where you can read their story, scan the QR code, and then you can go and watch their video podcast.
Brilliant.
And you can see them. You can see their emotion.
Yeah.
And they're all imperfect. And they're all beautiful. And there is so much strength through their vulnerability. So from this one experience that was totally out of my depth, that I felt totally like a fish out of water, that I refused to tell my story, birthed a movement through the power of podcast. And now I create programs and courses and platforms and mentorships around helping female business owners to launch their podcast, to amplify their messages of impact, to tell their personal story, to brand themselves. It's a powerful place to be.
I love what you say here in what you sent me. You said collaboration is the new currency. I love that, Greg. Collaboration is the new currency, brother. And really, that I was looking the other day. We just added to our download list, Tracey, 2 more states. So we're 2 states away from our podcast being downloaded in every state in America, right? And it's been 2019 is when we launched our podcast. It's been a slow, steady. We just every day we showing up, right? But the one thing that I absolutely love is the collaboration. You know what I'm saying? Like when I first started, my first 30 episodes, I was like, hello and welcome to CL King, and I am the center of the universe. And then I realized that is not what this is supposed to be about, right? And so I said, number one, I don't have a cool voice like Tracey, and I'm tired of listening to myself because that's all I ever do is talk. I said, why don't we bring some people on who have a story of impact? And it was through that concept like you're talking about, where now I have connections all across in like 40 different countries. You know, and Australia is one of them. And I could sit, like me and you could sit and chat for hours because of the kindred spirits that we have. And let me just let you guys in on a little secret. Tracey and I got in the pre-show today. Usually we're supposed to be in the pre-show at 6:30, right? So that would be 7:30 a.m. her time or whatever it is. And I said, Tracey, are you good? I sent her a little instant message. Are you okay? You get your makeup on? And she said, 2 minutes. So I said, okay, Tracey, we going live here shortly. And you know what? Do you know how little prep we had? It was, hey, great to see you. So glad to catch up, blah, blah, blah. And bam, that's it. Because our connectedness is way deeper than just, oh, I want to have you on the show. Like that's why I can relate to her as family. And so when you started seeing this, this movement that you've created, the Victim to Victory, the courses that you've created, amazing. If you guys go to any of her reels or TikToks, she gives points out she's dropping nuggets every day on like, okay, well, I'm stuck on this podcast particular point. What can I do? And she'll give you 5, 6, 7 tips, and you just go run with them. I've stolen some of her tips. What you talking about? Let me ask you this, Tracey. So let's get to the nuts and bolts. Because some people may be intimidated, some ladies may be intimidated by starting a podcast, right? So how do you help them take the journey that you took without being overwhelmed?
That's a great question, because there are gurus out there that say, oh, you need a massive email list. You need an engaged audience. Otherwise, and I've heard this guru say it, it's a waste of time to start a podcast. Well, I call BS on that.
Yeah.
Because I think you can start with zero experience. I think you can start with zero audience, because that's where everyone starts.
Right.
Yeah, there's these big celebrities. I mean, if Oprah's got a podcast, people are going to join it straight away because she's Oprah.
Right.
But everyone starts at ground zero in podcast.
Yeah.
Everyone. Yeah. Only the celebrities get the engaged views and Apple noteworthy.
Yeah.
Everyone starts at zero. Everyone starts with little experience.
Right.
And that's a great question, what you mentioned about women feeling intimidated to start. It is a journey. It is a step-by-step journey. And you said it yourself, the compound effect. Small little daily actions lead to big things. You don't have to see the whole staircase to take the first step. The first step is making the decision that you are not going to die with the music inside of you. And Les Brown says the graveyard is the most expensive real estate on earth because that's where your dreams go to die.
Now, before you go
and
on,
don't think if you're over 50
yeah,
that you have to sit on it, CL. Don't think, oh, my life's halfway over. I'm just going to retire and just look after the grandkids now. No.
Now, before you go on, Tracey, because I mean, she's all the way in Australia, folks, and look how clean our reception is. This is why the world is. There's no excuses. If I can bring somebody to your living room from Australia and it be this seamless, then it goes to show that you can do it too. But you mentioned Les Brown, and I've got some footage of you interviewing America's #1 motivational speaker, Les Brown. How was that experience, Tracey?
That was phenomenal. Please let me share this just for a moment because that was just the highlight. I had been watching his motivational speeches, and there's something about his voice and the way he delivers that just such resonated with me. So while I was going through all the things I went through, I would listen to Les Brown. And as it happened, and this is what's important to note as well, I interviewed Les Brown on my video podcast when I had 25 subscribers.
Oh, a whole
25 subscribers. And a friend of his, who was a mutual friend of mine that I'd met in the States when I went to the Entrepreneur Show. It's amazing how the ripple effect just delivers. They reached out to me and said, I want Les Brown to be on your show, and he's a friend of mine, and he's going to call you in an hour. And I'm like, no way. I thought they were joking with me, right? I actually thought they were joking with me. And I went, the Les Brown, not just like a Les Brown, the Les Brown. They're like, yeah. And I'm like, you know Les Brown? And all this time I've known you, I didn't know that. They're like, yeah, he's a really good friend. And I'm like, I don't know. My phone rings in an hour. I pick it up and he's going, hello, in his beautiful voice. Hi, Tracey, Babesi, Mamesi. I'm like, oh my God, it's Les Brown on the phone. I'm sitting in my pajamas in my lounge room talking to Les Brown at 11 o'clock at night.
Wow.
Surreal, motivating, inspirational at 25 subscribers. So do not ever think you need a large audience. Don't ever think that you need all the high-tech equipment.
Right.
Don't ever think that you can't be that person that interviews a well-known inspirational person. Don't ever think that that's not possible.
Right.
Because it is possible. Not only for me, lots of people. You just have to believe. I look back at that interview and I could have done that 10, 100 times better. Like, for sure, now that I know what I know.
Yeah.
But taking that imperfect action and just doing the do and just being yourself. And there was a few moments in the interview where I turned into a giggly schoolgirl and kind of, Les Brown, and I would probably do the same again now, knowing what I know now. He's phenomenal.
Let me ask you this, Tracey, but you just bring it up. Listen, again, we have in our virtual studios a celebrity in her own right, my dear friend and sister, all the way from Australia, Perth, Tracey Lee Cook. And you can find her at traceyleecook.com. I want you to go there. All of you ladies out there, she helps empower and engage women to be able to use their story to start a podcast and have an effective podcast in 90 days. And she is a podcast guru. I was thinking about that. I told my team last year, it didn't come to pass, but we had a whole lot of other things happen last year. I told my team last year that I wanted to interview Denzel Washington. He's my favorite actor, my most favorite actor on the planet. Like I have his movies memorized, right? And I love that he's not ashamed of his faith. He's one of the few Hollywood actors that has stayed married and committed and loyal, right? And has not lost his way. Well, I didn't interview him, but I did interview Will Kennedy. And Will Kennedy is from the Yellow Jackets, which is an international jazz band who me and my son, Chris Jr., who now plays in the Army band, we followed Will Kennedy on YouTube for years. Will Kennedy is the Yellow Jackets drummer, right? And me and my son are drummers, and Yellow Jackets are world renowned, right? 35 albums, I mean, Grammy Award, they're famous, right? And so one day I reach out to Will just on a whim, right? On their website, through their website, thinking he would never see it. I'd never hear from him. And then one day back when Chris was like 8 or 9, I get a phone call. And it's Will Kennedy. He's like, is this the king? And I'm like, oh my God, right? Because Will Kennedy's my hero and my son's hero. Well, he maintained, I just want to tell you how like these people are real and genuine, right? Like Les Brown. He maintained a relationship with us all the way through Chris's growing up years. He sent Chris a pair of his signature drumsticks and an autographed picture of himself on Chris's 16th birthday. Chris went ballistic, right? And then when he went off to Army boot camp, Will Kennedy called Chris to congratulate him for graduation. Now, the year before Chris went into the Army, Tracey, I got to do the ultimate thing, probably even more impactful than interviewing Denzel. I got to interview Will Kennedy. And I was on our podcast. I was so starstruck, right? I was so awestruck because I'm like, I don't even know what to say. I don't know. He's going to know that I'm not a real musician. I don't know what to do, right? And I was like, what if my Wi-Fi goes out? Oh, my Jesus. I'm messaging my staff. I'm like, guys, I'm interviewing Will Kennedy. Give me some questions. You know what I mean? It was, and I can imagine you were feeling that same way with Les Brown. But I know, I don't know Les, but I know how he approaches things. And one of the most amazing things to see is that those people who are heroes to us and are celebrities are just ordinary people too, right?
Very ordinary, very, very down to earth. We spoke on the phone for almost an hour, and it was like I was just talking to a friend. Mm-hmm. And it was absolutely surreal. And he sent me a text message after our interview as well. And he said, keep helping people raise their voices. You're doing great. And I've saved that text message, and it just kept me going. Right. And it's like somebody can see something in you that you can't see in yourself to give you the motivation to go to the next step. Right. And since then, that led to, at 135 subscribers, I interviewed Pat Quinn, who is quite often seen on stage with Tony Robbins. Yeah. And he actually offered to be on my podcast. And then at 270 subscribers, I interviewed Dr. Joe Vitale from The Secret. Yep. And a friend connected us. When you said collaboration is the new currency, your network is your net worth. Woo! And if you're not creating circles of people who actually want to collaborate with you, sometimes you're on a podcast as a podcast guest. Right. And it doesn't always stop there, because you collaborate with the host like we have, CL, and they become your friends. And those friends recommend you to other people. And those other people don't only have podcasts, they have virtual summits. Yeah. They have in-person stages. Right. They have put people in front of people who want to opt into your product or your service or your opportunity. Yeah. Or sometimes I'll have guests on in my group to train my group, and I'll go into their group and train their group. Collaboration is everything. This is how we support. This is how we encourage. This is how we inspire, motivate, and create friendships and movements worth furthering.
Yeah, that's right. I agree with you. Let me just say real quick, James C. Kelly, great friend of mine for years. When I first started speaking professionally, his kids were in the areas where I was speaking at, and he supported me for years. He's in the chat right now. James, I love you, man. He says it's time I come on the show. We'll have you anytime, James C. Kelly. His kids were at the Boys and Girls Club when I would go there, just starting out as a speaker. And I mean, I love him and his family, but the reality is that you're right. Look at the collaboration. His kids are grown with children now, and James C. Kelly and I are still very close. James Kelly's kids were in the Young Marines too, right, Greg? I think his son was. And you're right. The collaboration is the currency, because what I feel, and this is what I feel honestly, Tracey. Okay, I want you to listen to me closely. I feel that we can propel a movement and a culture that says this. When I see Tracey Cook doing something and she's over there starting a fire, I'm going to come and I'm going to fan it, right? I can't stay there for the whole fire, but I can come along and I can fan the flames, right? See, that's what collaboration is. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's just a mere, hey, Tracey, I believe in you. Sometimes it's just a thumbs up, right? Sometimes you'll see me liking your story, don't you, right? Or you'll see me making a comment of your story. I just am coming by to fan your flames. And we've got to be conscious about that. You know what I'm saying? We've got to be aware that our collaborations and our influence is important. So when you help a lady, Tracey Cook, TraceyLeeCook.com, when you help a lady form a podcast and center it around her story, she becomes a person of influence, right?
100%. 100%. And she's going to speak life in whatever industry or niche or topic her podcast is about, because she's branding herself. She's seen as the go-to expert in her field through the power of podcast. She's creating influence, probably not with the intention of creating a movement and culture and community, probably none of that. But that's where it starts, because everything starts with a passion, and then you find your voice, and then your mojo kicks in and you're on fire. Hey, and things will just happen for you.
Right. Let me ask you a practical question. What has been your most embarrassing moment podcasting? Like the bottom just fell out. You got one?
I've got many. I actually was interviewing a Marvel choreographer who actually teaches people in The Walking Dead and all the Marvel movies. And I was recording the podcast, because I record video podcast. And halfway through, I never realized that it stopped recording the video and just had the audio. And I never realized. So when it came time to air it and share it, we had to put a whole heap of graphics in there to make it look like it was done on purpose. It was really embarrassing because I didn't notice that the video had actually dropped out. And it was very embarrassing because she was showing us, from her face, what she can morph into with the makeup and all of that. And she was sharing her screen to show us that. And I didn't record it all because, technology eluded me a lot then, and I didn't realize. And it was a huge mistake. But hey, from our mistakes, we learn lessons. We fix our problems. And will it happen again? Probably. I don't know. But we just work around it, right?
All right. Well,
we added these graphics of her, and it actually looked really cool afterwards.
Well, let me tell you mine. I have a couple, and Greg and our team know of them. I'm not gonna tell you every one of them. I'm gonna tell you of the most recent one. Right now, here we've been doing this since 2019, and we've made a lot of mistakes, a lot of crazy stuff went on. But I probably one of the most unexplainable phenomenons was the night of my book launch, right? So November the 19th, last year, 2022, I fly in Tabari Wallace to be in studio with me live. Tabari Wallace has been on Ellen DeGeneres. He's the principal of the year. He's now at the state superintendent's office, etc. And he was the one who gave me my first paid speaking job. So at when he was at Havelock Middle. So I'm like, we're bringing Tabari Wallace in. We get the studio together. We add all the infrastructure, right? And we're rolling along about 30 minutes through the interview. And it's live just like we are now. And all the power in the studio goes out.
Ooh.
But the live was continuing. So for some way, the computer was still on. And the people could hear us live scrambling, trying to figure out what in the name of God is going on. Greg, Mike had their computers in my plugs over there. We added all these new lights, which was pulling all this juice, additional wiring and microphones and everything. And we overloaded the system right in the middle of a book launch. So I had to leave the set, fly downstairs, try to flick the breakers, and they're like, well, this not working. I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to sell a single book tonight. And we recovered. We got it. We got the lights back on. And I realized that life happens. But if I'm really going to do the subchapter of this book, which says, no matter the adversity, you still can make it. If I'm going to live that, then when adversity comes, I just have to roll through it and put my head down and say, I'm still going to make it. We finished out the show, and I've been selling books every single month since. I'm on a book tour, and, it was a crazy moment. But like you say, you just adjust and realize, hey, man, things happen. And that's what Greg tells me. He says, hey, man, stuff happens in showbiz. Chill out. You're good. And that is really exactly the way I know you feel, Tracey. And Tracey Lee Cook, who is a podcasting expert, ladies, she can help you get your own podcast started in as little as 90 days. She is from Perth, Australia, Perth. So they're going to say, well, what is the first step? What do I need to do to connect with you and become get coached by you? Well, how does that work? What do they need to do, Tracey?
They can book in for a podcast vision session. You'll find a tab on my website where you can do that. And we have a chat. I just simply want to talk to you. I'm not going to ask you to whip out your credit card on the call. I simply want to chat with you to see why it is you want to start a podcast. And if you don't know, let's create some clarity around that. Let's unwrap that box and see if it can be a fit for your business or your brand. But I really want to understand, what message do you want to get out to the world that's been sitting inside of you? And I want to help you get that out. And the first step is booking that podcast vision session so we can get to the core of what your message would be and how you would actually start your podcast. And I help you every step of the way to uncover your purpose.
Yeah. And, I liken podcasting to, I don't know, traversing to an airport, right? You see people in the airport and they're milling about like they know what they're doing. When I show up at the airport, I'm totally lost. I'm clueless, directionless, right? And so I'm not one of those guys that's going to be like, I'm going to figure it out. I look for someone who's dressed like someone in an airport. And I go say, where's gate C10? Because I'm lost, And that right there gets me to my destination a whole lot quicker and a whole lot less headaches. Imagine if you and I had when we first started, someone to say, hey, look, I've been down this road. Let me help you. And you'll thank me later. And so that's why I want you ladies out there who have a story, who have a purpose, who have something on your heart, you really want to get into this space. I want you to go to TraceyLeeCooks.com and schedule a chat with her, and let's do some analysis and see how you guys can work together. Tracey, when we think about it, the podcast world is a amazing world to be in, isn't it?
It's a very everyone knows everyone in the podcast world as well.
Right.
It's quite a network.
Yeah.
And it's quite, I see a lot of people that have been a guest on my podcast be a guest on other people's podcasts
Right.
who I've been a guest on and they've been a guest on. And there's quite a network. Everyone knows everyone.
Right.
And I always say to people as well, if you are a guest on someone's podcast and you're a good guest on someone's podcast and you add value to the audience, you will be recommended to other podcast hosts as a fantastic guest, as a wonderful guest who adds value, who shows up and celebrates the host like I do with UCL and shares the podcast, whether that be in audio or video,
Right.
because it is a collaboration. It is a two-way street. And by
Exactly.
being a guest, you can deliver value, but you can also create connection.
Right. When people invite me, because a lot of stuff I do is in person outside of the podcast, but I that is my burden. Like, that's my heartbeat, that I don't just want to show up and punch a box that I was an appearance here. I want to add value to that guest. I want to add value to their audience. And I don't take it lightly that, like, I'm funny about our audience here at Impact Life 24/7. What I mean by that, Tracey, is I don't just have anybody here, right? Not because I think I'm better than anyone else, but I just value those people who intentionally go push that download button, right? That means they are intentionally supporting you. Our Facebook Live audience, we love y'all, but most of y'all just scroll through, you know what I mean? You're like, oh, what's King up to? Or you just being nosy, then you keep it moving. But our podcasters, our audience, they intentionally download our content, right? And so when I bring someone here, I feel like when my audience pushes that download, they're going to be better than before they pushed it, after they listen to you. And ladies, if you are someone who feels like you have a story to tell and you have a message that you want to get out, you must connect with my guest. And it's so simple. Just go to Tracey Lee Cook. Let me make sure I get it right. TraceyLeeCook.com. And so I know I done went over, but y'all, this is a friend, and I don't get her from, I got to beg her a year in advance to come on. So give me a few more minutes. The book, tell us, you got a copy of the book? Where's the book at?
The book is,
Tracey,
I don't even have a,
Tracey,
I don't even have one within arm's reach, CL, and I normally do. It is called Victim to Victory. You can find it on my website as well. And I'm very proud of it. It's the first time I've produced my own book. But you know what? I'm even more proud because the theme of the book, like yours is overcoming adversity with Who Ate My Brownie, mine is change starts with your story. And it does. As soon as you own your story, no matter how victimized or traumatized you were, as soon as you own it as yours, that is freeing, my friend, and you can move forward from survive mode to thrive mode. And it is so freeing, and it's uncomfortable and it's scary, and we got you. Got you.
I love it, man. And I have a lady in mind. I'm going to share this episode with her. I've had her on my show. She may not want to do it right away, but I do believe she would fit into someone that could work with you. I had her on the show, and I've started a campaign that we're launching sometime this year when I get a break to breathe. It's called I Won't Try, and below that is drugs, right? DRUGS. And I had a lady on whose son was killed and poisoned by fentanyl. He's 13 years old. His name's Luca. And he's forever 13. And she travels the country releasing her energy and her grief, but also helping other mothers and fathers who have lost children to fentanyl poisoning. She's been interviewed on Fox, et cetera, other TV shows. And she said today that she made a post today about people want to know what it is I do. And she was struggling to try to articulate what she does, because she's very raw. She's very real. Her grief is real. It's palpable. You can feel it. But she has not just stayed in her grief, even though it's real and even though it's present every day. She has taken that the thing that could have kept her a victim, and she has turned that into helping other people. And so it is there are thousands and thousands and thousands of others like her. That I think her name is Amanda Faith. There are thousands of women out there like her and who are like you that just need to capture it. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's all over the place, right? And so with a podcast, does that achieve that? Does that help them kind of, put borders and order kind of to their purpose? Does that help them do that?
It most definitely does. There's such a power in speaking your story than writing it. And there's such a power in podcast where once you start speaking about it, just like I did, people reach out to you and share their stories, and it creates so much more clarity about the message of what you want to actually send out to the world. And that's the power of it, because it creates clarity in your own story. We've all got this signature story and then all these core stories, right? And regardless of who you're speaking to, you can choose a little core story off the shelf and use that and integrate that into your message to add value to that audience. So if you're speaking at a high school, you'd use a different core story. If you're speaking to business people or corporate people, you'd use a different core story. But it's all made up under the umbrella of your signature story. And once we realize the benchmarks and the timeframes of our story, you will start to just naturally and instinctively know which story to take off that shelf to deliver to that audience.
Right.
And that's where we start.
That's beautiful. Again, I just messaged her. I just actually tagged her in the chat. Amanda Faith, I want you to. I would love to connect you and Tracey Cook together. She's a very dynamic person, and her story it resonates. Because there's nothing like having a child, and I believe there's nothing like losing a child, especially to the hands of a poisonous drug. So I know she is helping people, and I also know that that what you're doing could work for her. So I tagged both of you. Maybe that can materialize all the way from Perth, and you can connect with Tracey Lee Cook go to traceyleecook.com. So you started with 25 subscribers. How are the subscriptions now, and what are your views, and how's everything looking now?
Oh, wow. On our YouTube, we're just over 5,000 now, I think. We've started a second YouTube channel called the Podcast Empire because so many women and men were reaching out and asking for tips about podcasting. So that's prompted the extension of the brand. And we're an empire, right? We're an empire where we're helping other people to create movements, and empires are movements. So we had to next level the brand.
Yeah.
And we're up around the 60, 70,000 with all our emails and social media and everything that we actually promote on, around the 60 to 70,000 now.
That's beautiful. And see, this is what I love. I love both of the dichotomies. Like I'm an analytics guy. I'm actually skilled in continual process improvement through analysis, but nobody cares about that. They just want me to speak and inspire them, right? What I don't get captured by is, and I never have, whether I have, now listen to me, because I'm gonna give you both sides of this equation, Tracey, and it'll balance out. I've never been consumed with if it was 1,000 people in the audience that I got called to speak to, or if it was 10. I speak the same to 10 as I do 1,000, right? I speak the same for free as I do for my $7,000 fee. It's the same. I'm going to give it my all. And so I've never gotten swayed by that. Greg and I have never been, so when we look, we see a video and we see 3 views. We're like, okay, we'll be back tomorrow. We see a video, we see 10 views, 4 downloads. Okay, we'll be back tomorrow. And so we just have, through the consistency, and that's one thing podcasting will give you is consistency, right? Through the consistency of our messaging, because I have a speaking business, so I'm busy all the time. But through our consistency of our messaging and following some of your stuff that you've taught me, you didn't know I was in class. We now are from our Facebook audience, who I just Facebook, right? Where things used to be, maybe get 4,000 or 5,000 views a month on all of our Facebook pages. Now we're upwards of around 40,000 a month on all those same pages because of consistency, right? It gives the message is just people expect, they begin to want to see you show up. And I believe that a podcast gives that opportunity to a lady who wants to not really get blown away by the numbers, but one day you'll go check them and you'll be blown away. Isn't that right, Tracey?
Oh, most definitely. And I show up exactly the same, whether I've got one person or whether I've got 20. I don't go on to a podcast or a Facebook Live or a training group or whatever, or a summit and go, hi, everyone, I'm just going to wait for 2 minutes till everyone jumps on. You speak to that one person, because that one person went out of their way to be there for you. You speak to that one person.
I'm with you. And you know what? For all of y'all out there that will get mad at this point, I never do that. I'm not going to listen. If you're on, I'm on. That's right. You took your time to look at what I got going on. It might be, I'm not going to wait for 50 of you to show up. You can catch it later. But that one is the most important one in the room. That's powerful, Tracey. Man, me and you should go on tour together. We would rock the stage, sister. You know that?
Oh, let's do it. Road trip, USA. Woohoo!
Yeah. It would be quite the penny to get you here to the U.S.
Oh, yes, indeed it is.
So when you were, and I'm going to let you go. I know it's early morning for you. It's late night for me. We're actually 24 hours. No, what are we, 12 hours? We're 12 hours separated, right?
Yeah, 12 hours. I'm coming to you from the future. It's a beautiful hot summer's, although it's always hot in Australia, even in winter, a hot summer Friday morning here.
It's Friday, y'all, and we're Thursday. With the pandemic, did you find that you really were able to kind of hone in on, okay, I can do this because now everybody's home and things have, you know what I mean? Did you find that to be a good time for you to hone your skills and really build your brand?
I think that was a deciding factor for me, most definitely. And it was timing, right? The universe provides timing as well, because I came back in the end of 2019 from the reality show. January 2020, I launched the Victim to Victory podcast, not knowing anything about podcasts, like literally nothing. I'd done a little bit of Google research and just rolled my sleeves up and jumped into it. And then in March 2020, Australia went into a lot of real hard lockdowns, and our West Australian border was actually shut down. So there was nothing else to do, really.
Right.
And I just had all these people reaching out, going through, kids kept at home, not being able to go to school, domestic violence problems. And, my podcast speaks to those people. And we were able to amplify and ramp up the amount of interviews we'd done to create hope and resources and empathy in a world that was going crazy. They needed to hear people that had been through something and how they got out the other side. So it was universally timing as well. So God said, there's lots of people hurting. You need to show up bigger so you can help these people to overcome and let them know there's hope and light at the other side. And that's what I've done.
That is so awesome, man. I'm hearing the music from Studio 5000, so I guess that means I have kept Tracey for over an hour. That's how you know you're amazing, Tracey. When baseball goes into extra innings, And the people consider that a bonus. They consider that a plus. So I kept you way long. I want to thank you so much for just your friendship, the way that you handle yourself, and the way that you care. And so, ladies, I've given it to you in all of its glory, the opportunity. And so TraceyLeeCook.com. If you want to dive into this element and use your story to form a podcast, she can help you do it in 90 days, be there with you every step of the way, and you won't blow up your studio like I did. You know what I mean? So, Tracey, what I want you to do is there's ladies out there that you need to speak to. So I'm going to give you 1 minute, and I want you to speak a word of encouragement to some of them that may be on the fence, like, I don't know if I can do it, but you know they got a story. So go ahead and speak to them right now. The floor is yours.
Les Brown said to me, the graveyard is the most expensive real estate on earth because that's where our dreams go to die. I see you. You are worthy and you've got the greatness within you. It starts with your story. Change starts with your story. Take the first step.
Change starts with your story. Take the first step. That's my sister and friend all the way from Australia, Perth. Greg says it's cold here. Yeah, it's cold here, but it's hot there. They got kangaroos in the backyard, yo. TraceyLeeCook.com. Get her book, her amazing book, bestseller, collaborative work, an amazing author. And she might be able to give you some tips on having a cool accent. I mean, I bring Tracey here just for the way she talks. So, you know what I mean? Like, can you get me talking like that? That's what I want to know. I'd probably be a $1 million speaker if I could step on stage like that.
You just got to say g'day.
G'day. Good day, mate. Hey,
he's got it. He's got it.
Greg, you got to do it, brother. Good day, mate. We're going to get your book. I'm going to go there and order. And, get her book. Follow our friend, TraceyLeeCook.com. We'll have you back again. I might want to have you on to our Leadership Institute to do a workshop because I got some leaders there that are kind of on the fence about podcasting that may want to do it. So we might bring you in virtually to do that. Tracey, you're an amazing person, an amazing human being. Thank you so much for being on Impacting Life 24/7.
Thank you very much. I'm very, very grateful and proud to call you my friend and my brother, and the amazing things that you're doing as a visionary that helps raise and elevate people's souls and belief. Thank you.
All right, we'll do it again. You take care, Tracey Lee Cook. God bless you. All right, so that was Tracey Lee Cook from Perth, Australia, Perth. Thank you, Greg, for hanging with me, man. I know this was a longer one tonight. VP, you always do it. Good day, good day, good day. You got to say good day, like one word, Greg. But you country, brother. You're going to be like, good day. I love you, Greg, man. We've been at this a long time, brother. And so Tracey Lee Cook, if you're a lady and she focuses her efforts on helping ladies take their story and form a podcast. Very simple, but very powerful. And in all things, having someone to help you get started and coach you through some of the roadblocks, it's so good, man. So get up with her, TraceyLeeCook.com. We're so excited about our road trip resuming. Next month, we'll be at Motion Church, March the 5th. The following weekend, we will be at Church on the North Coast. I'm also talking with my alma mater next week to see if we can do a big rally back at Admiral King, which is now called Lorraine High. And so while I'm up there in Ohio, I just hope to be able to just go to as many places as I can and inspire as many folks as I can. The place where it all kind of happened, y'all. And so, right, going from a victim to victory. And looking forward to that trip. And also, thanks for reminding me, our jail talk campaign is coming up in February, and we'll be discussing another round of, hey man, inspiring these residents at the Craven County Jail to get themselves prepared for getting out. This is the month of love, February. It's also Black History Month. So we're going to do some recognitions of current day Black leaders that we want to honor And we don't want to wait till they're gone to honor them. So we're going to do that. We're going to begin doing that on our page and just celebrating them. Greg is one of them. I'm going to celebrate him as a Black History leader. The man does so much stuff for so many people. We'll be in the Black History Parade when will we be there, Greg? February the 18th. Victor Taylor, who we're trying to get on the show, if he would just click the link and join one day. We're going to talk about the Black History Parade happening in New Bern, North Carolina. They're having a float contest, giving away a $100 prize for the best float, and just so much. We're also doing a special episode, recognition, and interview with our friend and legendary radio host, John Grant. So I wanted to do it during Black History Month. He has retired, and we're going to send him out with high honors because he is a man that he's a legend in the radio broadcasting business. So we got a lot on our plate, but before we get back behind the wheel, we make a lot of stuff happen locally, nationally, and then internationally. So as you see, Impacting Life 24/7 is truly about impacting one life, one day at a time. Go visit TraceyCook.com. And if you're a lady with a story and you want to help and understand how to frame that and use it to make an impact in other people's lives, Tracey Lee Cook, she can help you do that. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. Have a great night.